there is just a ton of economic news out there. And if you're thinking to yourself, how do I digest all of this? Well, I'm Mike. This is Mondays with Mike. I can't help you digest and understand all of it, but I certainly can do it for the real estate related news. So I'm going to focus on that again this week. Let's talk first about the Fed. The Fed had their fifth interest rate hike of the year recently. It's definitely affecting affordability, and we are seeing more buyers sitting on the sidelines. We had a 27-month low nationwide, not talking specifically about the New York metro area, of sales of existing homes. So we are starting to see that affect home prices nationwide. We also are starting to see developers of single and multifamily putting the brakes on a little bit because interest rates affect their ability to borrow and build also. So what does that mean? We had single family homes, the development pipeline shrunk to a 26-month low. So, we're going back 2 years here in a lot of cases with some of these stats, but let's look forward. That's going to mean that what would be coming online as new development, again, we're talking nationwide here, is not going to be there in 9-12 months when typically these properties would have COs and people would be ready to buy them and move in. So we are seeing in the future what's likely going to be a continued supply-driven market where the supply is going to remain tight and maybe be even tighter. So if interest rates do come down next year, we might see prices spike way up very quickly. Now, let's get back to the short term. One of the things the Fed is trying to do to slow inflation down is they're not trying to lift unemployment, but that is a byproduct of what they're doing, and it is cooling the economy. So rental rates for multifamilies and apartments have been through the roof, and vacancies have been at all-time lows. I think up to this point in 2022, we've seen historic lows for vacancy rates. We'll have to continue watching that because even though everybody expects multifamily and rental properties to be very hot investments if you're a landlord over the next year plus, in the short term, we might start to see some rent defaults, and it might be a little bit tougher being a landlord. We all know from this discussion and maybe from hearing news, it's already pretty tough to be a landlord in New York State. But again, we're talking nationwide, it might get a little tougher. Another thing that I don't think there's enough emphasis on this, refinances are way down. So if we can shift for a moment and talk about refinancing, most people, 50% of the refinances go toward home improvements or to bolster people's savings. A lot of them go toward buying cars. Let's just focus on the home improvement aspect of it. This means that we're going to see a lot of home improvements pushed off, and we're going to see really the mortgage industry suffer even more because it's very hard to get people to refinance when rates are going up. And it also means there's going to be less money that goes into the economy. So definitely something to take a look for. And I don't really see that changing or the trend reversing until we see rates come back down again. So let's see, we're 3.5 minutes in. Actually, I'm not as long-winded as normal. Those are kind of the facts. I think the only thing that we're not focused on when we look toward the future and what's to come is who's moving still, right? So we have millennials who are reaching kind of their peak earning years. A lot of them are starting families at this point, and they are the primary candidate for buying a lot of the single-family homes that would be built in the next year or so if there wasn't a snag in the development pipeline. So I think there is going to be heavy demand that continues to persist, and there's also going to be a tight supply that's going to continue to persist. So, I mean, I wouldn't bet money on it just yet, but I would guess that as we go into 2023, we're going to see more economic pain. We're going to see prices decline or at least flatten. Remember, New York is a little bit different, especially Long Island, because we don't see a lot of development on a regular basis. We already have supply constraints because there's just not that much land like there is in other areas of the country. So we might see more of a flattening on Long Island, the New York metro area. New York City is kind of its own animal. We'll have to address that separately, maybe on a different installment of this. But I think nationwide, we are going to see a dip. We might see, I think, what economists like to call a V-shaped recovery, where prices shoot right back up again. We shall see. Not going to go too much longer than this. Wanted to make sure you had the important news. I'm happy to chat about any of this stuff, offline. If you're seeing this on social media, please direct message me. If you're seeing this by email, you probably have my number. Love to talk to you on the phone, or you can send me an email back. And I will have more of these. I'm going to try to get as frequent as I can. Hope everybody's having a great October.